Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to our ever ongoing series on the glories of our most beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. Happy you're with us. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtata Deshatarane. So we are continuing with our mini-series on stimulation for ecstatic love, and this will be part 37. This lecture is actually our third class in our discussions about Srimati Radharani's ornaments. And in the previous lecture, we discussed how Radharani is dressed and ornamented by her maidservants in Varshana after her morning bath, you may remember. And we described that her ornaments number 64, principal ornaments. And they're all kept in a special box called Saj Samhar. Saj Samhar. And the person in charge of that box is Vishakasaki. And one of the specific duties of these gopis is to count all the jewelry before decorating Sri Radha with them, and then counting the ornaments again while taking them off her and putting them back in the box later in the day. But we also discussed how her maidservants, the gopis, sometimes dress and ornament Sri Radha on special occasions while in the Vrindavan forest. And one example is when they spontaneously coronated her Queen of Vrindavan in the forest. That lecture we gave, I think, 3 years ago. So the question arises, where did they get the opulent dress and all the ornaments to do this in the forest? Again, it was a spontaneous affair of the moment. Surely they hadn't brought, her coronation dress and ornaments from Varshana that day. But nevertheless, it's described they dressed her in a very opulent way, befitting the occasion. The acharyas write of that moment. I found a beautiful quote. To what can Sri Radha's fully ornamented beauty be compared? A golden vine fully blossomed, Mount Sumeru glistening in the sunshine? Hardly. Her indescribable glory can only be compared to itself. So beautiful. So where did they get the dress and the ornaments and all the paraphernalia required for a coronation in the middle of the Vrindavan forest? The answer is from the Sringara Rahasyas. Sringara Rahasyas, translated, means the storehouses holding the secrets of Sringara. Storehouses holding the secrets of Sringara. Now these, treasure houses arranged by Vrindadevi are located in different places in the Vrindavan forest, where, among other things, various kinds of jewelry and outfits are stored by Vrindadevi. It's described that these nectarian storehouses, they appear every 5 miles or so in the Vrindavan forest. These Sringara Rahasyas are covered actually with a white curtain. And if one opens the curtain, he'll find a room filled with precious stones, ornaments, outfits, sticks, different articles, shoes, masks, pins, minerals, paints, strings, and shawls of various types. However, there's a secret to all of this. The secret of these storehouses is that only a true Brajabasi can see what's inside. If anyone else, opens the curtain, they'll find only a simple kunj filled with like berries and vines of different plants, like that. But when a servant of Sri Radha or Krishna opens the curtain, they'll see all the paraphernalia required for their lordship's seva. To see such beautiful articles inside these storehouses and these groves, I was reading, actually requires the mercy of Yogamaya, Purnamasi. And a special mantra she gives to those special souls who serve Radha and Krishna with all their hearts and souls in Sri Vrindavan Dham. You have to get a special mantra from Yogamaya. And whoever works under the guidance of Yogamaya in Braj knows the mantra to manifest these items in those special storehouses. And by uttering or murmuring those confidential mantras, the white curtains open and the Brajabasi can see everything inside. It's very interesting. I'd love to see those storehouses, but we need the mercy of Purnamasi. I was reading in the Srihita Parama Nanda Das Padavali that some of these storehouses are situated near the tail end of Govardhan Hill. When we're doing Govardhan Parikram, we get to the southern end and we go around there. So some of the storehouses are situated there. One is near Govindakund. One is at Dana Nivartana Kund. And let me remember, one is on the banks of Radhakund. 12 more of these transcendental storehouses are established at Varshana, 12 in Nandagram, 12 described in different directions in Vrindavan, and 12 more in each forest, sub-forest of Braja. An interesting note is that these storehouses are not present in Gokul or Mathura. The reason being that there, in those places, the pastimes of Radha and Krishna don't have such deep madhurya bhav. So there's no need for such storehouses. Now, another interesting fact I discovered is that the gopis and the gopas, Krishna's cowherd boyfriends and girlfriends, always dress and ornament themselves according to the dress and ornaments that Radha or Krishna wear respectively on any given day. The poet, one of our favorite poets, Surdas, he says in one of his poems, Sundara Asham Shaka Shab Shundara. Shundara Shama Shaka Shab Shundara. It means, literally, like beautiful Krishna, all his cowherd friends are beautiful as well. So as regards gopis, each day Radharani's personal maidservants dress and ornament themselves according to the color combination of Sri Radha's dress. They don't wear the exact clothes, but they dress themselves and ornament themselves according to the color combination of Sri Radha's dress. And according to the way Krishna ties his turban on any given day, the cowherd boys tied theirs in a similar way. It's so sweet. And whatever dhoti Krishna wears, the cowherd boys can be seen wearing similar dhotis. And even the feathers that Krishna attaches on his turban are the same feathers all the boys will attach to their turbans to look like Krishna. There's a saying I was thinking that imitation is the highest form of flattery. So again, Surdas says, Krishna is like the moon, whereas the Sakhas, the cowherd boys, are like the twinkling stars. And Sri Radha is like the sun, whereas all her gopis are like its rays. Now, by remembering these words of Surdas, I was reminded of a pastime by the poet Lalit Kishore. It's called The Moonlike Face. The Moonlike Face. Now, we often hear how when Sri Radha is angry with Krishna, Krishna will disguise himself in order to approach her and appease her anger. So many times we recounted such pastimes. But in this pastime, Sri Radha disguises herself to appease Krishna. So it goes like this. Once, 7-year-old Krishna was playing with his funny Brahmana friend Madhu Mangal, when he said, Madhu Mangal, I have so many beautiful and rare toys, which you will never have. So Madhu Mangal said, Krishna, I also have such toys at home. So Krishna said, "What are those toys?" So Madhu replied, "I have a wooden stick. Do you have one, Krishna?" Krishna said, "Yes." So Madhu said, "I have both a soft ball and a hard ball. Do you have those, Krishna?" Krishna said, "Yes." Madhu said, "Krishna, I have a toy which dances in the opposite direction to which the wind is blowing. Do you have such a toy, Krishna?" Krishna smiled. He said, "Yes." So Madhu said, keep trying here, "I have a toy which flies in the air. Do you have such a toy, Krishna?" Krishna said, "Yes, Madhu Mangal." Then Madhu Mangal said, "Krishna, I have a toy which shines and glitters in the dark. Do you have such a toy?" Krishna said, "Yes." So at that point, Madhu Mangal became frustrated, thinking that, whatever he has, Krishna has too. It's just, boys can be boys. So then Madhu playfully tried to trick Krishna, saying, "Krishna, I have the moon. Do you have that too?" Now Krishna was going to say yes, but he stopped and thought, "I don't have the moon." So he said to Madhu, "Madhu, let me ask my mother where she's hiding the moon toy from me. Where she's hiding the moon toy from me." So he went to Mother Yasoda and he said, "Maya, where's my moon?" So Yasoda replied, she smiled and she replied, "Oh Lala, why do you need the moon?" So Krishna said, "Maya, I want to play with the moon." So Yasoda said, "No, Krishna, Lala, we cannot play with the moon. The moon is our devata. We respect him. We do not play with the moon." So Krishna became a little upset. He said, "No, Maya, you're lying to me. All my friends have moons." All my friends have moons. Even Madhu Mangal, he has one at his home. So Mother Yasoda, she understood that this was all the mischief of Madhu Mangal. So she said, "Lala, Madhu Mangal is lying to you. Do not believe his words. Such a moon does not exist which my son can play with. Such a moon does not exist which my son can play with." But when Krishna started crying uncontrollably, Mother Yasoda became worried. And taking him to a nearby open window, this is in the evening, at night time, she said, "Lala, look, the moon is in the sky. It's not a toy." But Krishna kept crying and he said, "Maya, I will not herd cows anymore if you don't give me this moon." So at this point, Yasoda became very upset and she called for Madhu Mangal. And when he arrived, she said, "Madhu, this is all your fault. It's all you're doing. So you have to make Krishna happy again. How and where will you get that moon for my son?" So, in the presence of, Mother Yasoda, Madhu Mangal became submissive and replied, "Do not worry, Mother. I will ask my grandmother, Devi Purnamasi. She's expert in everything." It's very interesting. Purnamasi is the grandmother of Madhu Mangal. So he said, "I will ask my grandmother, Devi Purnamasi. She's expert in everything," which is so true. And it's written that just by hearing Purnamasi's name, Yashoda joined her palms in respect. Such is our Braj culture. So Madhu Mangal went to his grandmother, Purnamasi, and he told her the whole story. So Purnamasi thought for a moment, then she smiled and ordered Nandimukhi, the Gopi Nandimukhi, to go to Varshana and take a message to Lalita and Vrindadevi that to please Krishna, they needed to manifest Sri Radha as the moon in person. To manifest Sri Radha as the moon in person and take her to see Krishna. So when informed of this, Sri Radha happily agreed. And her maidservants started quickly preparing special clothes and ornaments for her. Soon they were dressing her in a white dress, covered in pearls. Then they decorated her chin with white sandalwood paste and sprinkled shiny glitter all over her hair. They're making her look like the moon. Then they painted her forehead with white, fragrant jasmine oil. Her eyebrows were whitened with white mineral dye. And this is very beautiful. Her face was decorated and whitened by the effulgence of her own beauty. Her face was decorated and whitened by the effulgence of her own beauty. Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radharani Ki. At that point, her maidservant sprinkled cool rose water on her body and put silver and diamond bracelets on her wrists. Now, because Sri Radha appeared like a walking moon, all her maidservant gopis disguised themselves as walking stars in the forest of Braj. I thought that was so nice. Her maidservant gopis disguised themselves as walking stars in the forest of Braj. Then everyone, meaning Srimati Radharani and her maidservants, her girlfriends, proceeded to the playground of Krishna. Remember, they're all young at this point. They're 7 years old. Where he was sitting, staring at the ground in a mood of sorrow and disappointment. Then suddenly Krishna looked up and he saw that the moon was walking towards him, as if ready to play with him, bringing all the stars with him. Our poet is so expert, Lalita Kishore, bringing all the stars with it. As Radha approached Krishna, he reached out and touched her body, thinking it was the moon. Actually, it's described, he reached out and touched her cool body, because the moon is cool, we hear, thinking it was the moon. Thus, deceiving Krishna, Sri Radha played with him, satisfying his desire to play with the moon. You could say appeased Krishna. And our poet, Lalita Kishore, he prays very nicely at the end of this pastime. May the dark night of Braj, Krishna, be glorious. May the moon of Braj, Sri Radha, be victorious. And may the stars of Braj, the gopis, be gracious to us all. Wow. Now, this is just pure nectar. At this point, I'd like to share a very beautiful description of Srimati Radharani's dress and ornaments found in Lord Chaitanya's discussion with Ramananda Rai in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Madhya Lila, chapter 8, verses 162 to 181. Now it's very deep, it's very esoteric, we could say rasik, but it's worth hearing. Ultimately, we all want to become rasik devotees, meaning devotees imbued with the pure love for Krishna, like the Brajabasis in Vrindavan. I was thinking that Srimad Bhagavatam actually begins, or let us say, first canto, first chapter, verse number 3, by declaring itself a rasa shastra for rasic devotees. In that shloka are the words Mohur Aho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavuka, meaning Rasika, those who are full in the knowledge of mellows, Bhuvi, on the earth, Bhavuka, who are expert and thoughtful. The actual translation, as Prabhupada gives it, is, O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Shukadev Goswami, therefore this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. That's Prabhupada's translation. So we want to become rasic devotees. Concerning rasic topics, Srila Prabhupada writes in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, chapter 4, text 231 to 234 as follows. All these conclusions, he's talking about rasic conclusions, are unfit to disclose in public. But if they are not disclosed, no one will understand them. Therefore I shall mention them, revealing only their essence, so that loving devotees, like rasic bhaktas, will understand them, but fools will not. Anyone who has captured Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda Prabhu in his heart will become blissful by hearing all these transcendental conclusions. All these conclusions are like the newly grown twigs of a mango tree. They are always pleasing to the devotees, who in this way resemble cuckoo birds. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, Kaviraj Goswami describes, again, Radharani's ornaments in a way that we haven't discussed, in a very deep and poetic way. We'll just mention a few verses because the list is quite long. In text 174, Madhya Lila chapter 8, he writes, and to listen carefully to catch it, the ornaments decorating Shri Radha's body are the blazing ecstasies of goodness. The blazing ecstasies of goodness and the constantly existing ecstasies headed by jubilation. I told you it's deep, but we have to hear for purification and hopes. He concludes, all these ecstasies are the ornaments all over her body. Then text 179, he writes, Srimati Radharani's earrings are the name, fame, and qualities of Lord Krishna. The glories of Lord Krishna's name, fame, and qualities are always inundating her speech. In text 166, he writes, Srimati Radharani's transcendental body is brilliant in luster and full of all transcendental fragrances. Lord Krishna's affection for her is like a perfumed massage. Text 170. Srimati Radharani's personal beauty is the reddish powder known as kumkuma. Her affection for her associates is sandalwood pulp, and the sweetness of her smile is camphor. All these, combined together, are smeared over her body. Text 176. The tilak of good fortune is on her beautiful broad forehead. Her various loving affairs are a gem, and her heart is the locket. I told you it's deep. Text 177, all about her ornaments and dress. Srimati Radharani's gopi friends are her mental activities, which are concentrated on the pastimes of Sri Krishna. She keeps her hand on the shoulder of a friend who represents youth. She keeps her hand on the shoulder of a friend who represents youth. And finally, text 178, Srimati Radharani's bedstead is pride itself, and it is situated in the abode of her bodily aroma. She is always seated there, thinking of Krishna's association. Hare Krishna. So in this deep way, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes Srimati Radharani's ornaments and dress, and I thought it would be appropriate to include it as a, you could say, a conclusion to our 3 lectures on her ornaments. Hare Krishna. So we'll conclude our mini-series on her ornaments today with a very short, how could I put it, ornamental pastime. Ornamental pastime. So here goes. One time, Srimati Radharani came to Govardhan Hill for a rasa dance. But when she arrived at that spot, her friends insisted that she rearrange her clothing and ornaments and makeup before meeting Krishna. Because on setting out on her journey, she had been very beautifully decorated, of course, but the long walk and the dusty roads made her appear slightly disheveled. So one of her friends took her by the hand and said, "You must look your very best for Krishna. So please be patient and let us touch you up." So of course, Radharani agreed. And so her friends and maidservants sat her on a large stone and set to work, or set to seva, we would say. They dressed her in beautiful fresh clothes and decorated her with jewels and ornaments, including a diamond tiara, on top of the head, sparkling earrings, a pearl nose ring, glowing lipstick, a drop of musk, strands of pearls, a sash of bells, blue bangles, assorted rings, and sweetly tinkling ankle bells. Sweetly tinkling ankle bells. And afterwards, they all, her friends and Radharani, rushed to the Rasa dance arena to meet Krishna. Now, it's described that as a result of that pastime, the place where the gopis decorated Sri Radha is called Shringarashtali. Shringarashtali. It's particularly famous because there are many colored stones there. On one stone, red finger marks can be found from the lac that was mixed to repaint Sri Radha's lotus feet. Another stone has vermilion stains on it from the kumkuma placed in the part of her hair. A third stone has a small depression stained black from the ceruleum that Vishaka used to paint around the base of Radharani's eyelashes, so that her eyes would shine, is described like Krishna's blackest luster. So that her eyes would shine like Krishna's blackest luster. Now, Gaudiya Vaishnavas know that every stone on Govardhan Hill is very special. But for devotees who have a special attraction or devotion for Srimati Radharani, the stones that have the marks of Radha Sringara at Shringarashtali are the most special of all. This is because such devotees favor Sri Radha and are known to pray to her as follows. It's one of my favorite prayers, actually. They're actually praying to Krishna in this prayer. This prayer is, it's found in the Nikunja Keli Viru Devali, verse 67 by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So devotees pray to Krishna, but you'll catch the special mood for Sri Radha. O all-auspicious Krishna, may you be victorious. You perform all kinds of sweet pastimes. Let my name also be there when you count Sri Radha's associates. That is my prayer. Although I am covered by material consciousness, I can still aspire for this. O Lord, let my prayer be fulfilled. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So the stones at Shringarashtali are very special. But actually, everything in Vrindavan Forest is most special of all. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami reveals that wonderfully in chapter 3 of Govinda Lilamrita. It's a verse that was very nicely translated by my godbrother Bhanu Swami, and we will finish today's lecture with that verse. O Radha and Krishna, this forest, unrestrained out of love, like the Sakis, is glorious. Just as the Sakis exhibit sattvika bhavas, this forest becomes stunned through animals appearing paralyzed. It trembles through the quivering of non-moving entities, perspires through melted rocks, becomes choked in voice with unclear bird calls, and develops hair standing on end through the sudden growing of sprouts. Shri Brajumi, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki, Vrindavaneshwari, Srimati Radharani Ki. So we've concluded our 3 lectures on Srimati Radharani's ornaments. Hare Krishna. And we'll move on to another topic and our stimulation for ecstatic love next Friday. Thank you so much, Prabhus. See you then. Shri Shri Gauranitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Shyamsundar ki, Vrindavan Eshwari, Srimati Radharani ki, her blessed ornaments ki. Mayapur Dham ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yagya ki, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Jai Jai Sri Sri Radhe Shyam. Glories